we got an extra mile out of the tank. That's cool. I'm thinking getting down on this bike's level, the best name for it is Furious George, the Street Mutilator.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Yammie Noob, and today we've got a living with on the FTR1200. Stay tuned, it's going to be a good one. Now, it has been a minute since I have done a living with on a motorcycle, and for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, let me explain how this is going to work. I will be taking this FTR1200 home with me for the next few days, riding it around and living with it as if I owned this motorcycle to give you an idea of what it's like should you be the person who's going to win it. Speaking of winning it, you can win this motorcycle right here, this exact one. It's going to show up in somebody's driveway in the future here, not too distant, because unfortunately we're getting ready to give this guy away. But if you want to be the person who wins this here bike, click the links down in the description below. Get yourself signed up to win. You've got YammieNoob.co, you've got shop.YammieNoob.co, and merch.YammieNoob.co. A bunch of different ways to get entered to win. Pick your favorite, get yourself signed up. You are not going to want to miss this motorcycle. Now let's take this motorcycle on my commute home and see what it's like as a daily rider.
Now before we get out on the road, I gotta take a second and applaud you on your good taste. That's right, you've no doubt been looking into the FTR1200 because you value clean lines and good looks. That, or you fell asleep and this is the next video in your YouTube queue. Either way, you need to keep yourself as clean as your bike, and Manscaped has an all-new box of goodies with everything you need to get your junk back to showroom condition. The Perfect Package 4.0 is the natural evolution of Manscaped's all-in-one box of ball-shaving goodness. You've got the Lawnmower 4.0, which you already know is the best of the best, but you've also got the Weed Whacker for trimming your ear and nose pubes, the Magic Mat so you don't leave a bunch of pube trimmings all over the bathroom floor, and the Crop Preserver deodorant and Reviver toner so you can keep smelling like a rose all day. Click that link down below and use the code Yammie for 20% off your order, and you'll get the Shed travel bag and anti-chafing boxer briefs for free. It's the perfect Christmas gift from you to your testicles. Now let's hit the road.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my afternoon commute home. Not exactly. I'm taking a slightly different route today because I am filming some stuff. And I just wanted to show you how much I like this motorcycle as a daily commuter. It is a ton of fun to commute on this motorcycle, mostly because it's an absolute hooligan machine. And, I mean, who doesn't want to have a little bit of zest and joie de vivre in their daily riding motorcycle? The best part about this bike for me is just how comfortable it is to sit on, you know, whether we're going 70 or whether we're just standing still. The seat is nice and wide. It's in a really great place, and yeah, the newer model has a slightly lower seat height, but I actually prefer the tall seat on this because, I don't know, it fits me better. And then probably the best part about this is leaving just about any stoplight, you can get the thing to wheelie on power alone. It's a ton of fun to just cruise around and get up to speed on the street. Usually, you know, commuting is one of those things you do sort of begrudgingly on a motorcycle, but this actually injects a lot of fun and attitude into the ordeal. Which, again, who doesn't love that? The only issue with this motorcycle, as I see it, for a highway cruise, is in this particular setup where we have the exhaust that is so crazy loud. That just comes down to proper exhaust selection on this motorcycle. You do need to be a little bit more careful than you might otherwise be, because when you decat these motorcycles, my God, do they scream. I mean, just listen to this. I mean, it's just this little ball of rage and anger that you uncork by taking the catalytic converter out, and it turns it into this absolute ripper, and it feels fun. I mean, who doesn't love, you know, going down a street setting off car alarms every now and again? But if you really are looking at the FTR as a motorcycle you plan to commute with, I would really recommend not decatting this motorcycle. What I've seen done, especially on some of the newer models with the Acra pipe on there, is they drill out the case and then they pull a screw out to remove the baffle from the exhausts, and then they just leave it as is, because when you do that you get that nice grumble tone, but you don't have the ear-splitting just absolute degeneracy that is this straight Bassani pipe here. Again, it sounds great from time to time, and it's okay because I get to go ahead and put this thing back in the garage when I'm done with it. I don't have to live with it like this, but if it were my motorcycle, I would not love this exhaust. It would be one of the first things I need to replace. And I might actually look into getting a stock set of headers for this bike again, as opposed to getting another, perhaps quieter exhaust system. Now, while we're still just cruising on this bike, it is worth noting that A, it has cruise control, which is super nice on this bike. It works great. You just turn it on and then you hit the button and it's set. I mean, how sweet is that? Everybody who's commuting on their motorcycle should have cruise control. I was initially against it when I started playing with it on some other bikes, but it's really nice, guys. I'm really enjoying having cruise control. One of those things that you wouldn't normally expect to enjoy, but who knows? You know, maybe it's just the dad in me, the inner dad that's coming back out. I wish my motorcycle had cruise control. And again, while we're on the topic of cruising, this thing just munches down miles on the highway super, super well. It's crazy stable at highway speed because it is still so heavy and because the wheelbase is so long. It's not twitchy, it doesn't get blown around in the wind. It's a really easy motorcycle to commute on. Plus, you get to just leave a stoplight and pop, you know, little power wheelies when you do it. Let's see if I can get another one going here for you. Although we're going to head straight into a turn, so I might just take it a little bit easier. It's just a fun hooligan bike when you're commuting. I mean, everybody loves a motorcycle that's fun to get on and just go for a ride no matter what you're doing. This bike is great for that. Now, let's take this motorcycle back in the shop and talk about some of my favorite and least favorite things on this motorcycle, because while it is fun to commute on this bike, it is not a perfect package.
Bringing the bike back into the shop here for a minute, I wanted to take some time and talk about my favorite and least favorite things on this motorcycle. First thing I love about this is the way it looks. It's really cool to sit on this motorcycle, see this big, wide, flat tank here, and it's got some serious look back factor, especially the fact that it's an American motorcycle. People look at it, it says Indian on the side of the tank. It's really kind of a show-stopping bike. And going along with that, the size of this motorcycle is great for a rider who's 6'4" in his boots and a little bit heavier. So this motorcycle fits me really, really well. And I like the nice tall 33-inch-ish seat height on here. Super comfy place for me to sit, and I can get into a nice like attack supermoto stance on here. Feels really good for a long day in the saddle. Now, one of my least favorite things on this motorcycle is the way that the throttle works. This motorcycle's a little bit herky-jerky, and I'm not sure if it's down to the way that it's set up from the factory or the fact that there's a power commander on here from the previous owner. We've got a full system exhaust on here that it is ear-splittingly loud. I swear, guys, you cannot ride this motorcycle without having earplugs in. It's basically a straight pipe, and it makes the throttle feel just a little bit funny. It's really only happy either all the way closed or all the way open. But going along with that, one of my favorite things is that this engine revs so well when you're out on the road. I'm sure you've heard me just giggling in my helmet, revving this thing all the way to the red line before shifting gears. You literally rev the pants off this bike and it loves it. One of my favorite things here is how modern this motorcycle is. This is a thoroughly modern motorcycle from an American manufacturer, and it's one of the first times we've seen that ever. Yes, Harley has finally caught up with its Sportster S and Pan America, but this was a trendsetter when it first came out in 2019. The switch gears feel really good on here. They've got nice clicks. We've got a touchscreen dashboard. It all looks really good when you're sitting in the cockpit. And of course, we do have Brembo brakes on here with fully adjustable suspension. This motorcycle, again, is thoroughly modern, and that's great from an American manufacturer. However, one thing that irritates me a lot, and this is a little niggle I have with a ton of European-styled bikes, is the high beam switch. It's really easy for me to accidentally knock the high beam switch while I'm reaching for the clutch. That's a small niggle, it's not a deal breaker, but it is a pain in the butt. The last thing that I don't love about this motorcycle is the price. These FTRs are expensive compared to what you're getting. This motorcycle here new is about $15,000 more for the carbon version with the 17s. You can get these all the way up to Super Duke Tuono money. That's a lot to ask for a bike that really is only making 120 horsepower and 90 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah, it's a cool American motorcycle, but I don't think it commands that super premium price tag the way some of those other motorcycles do. Now let's get this thing back out on the road.
Well now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you thought we were getting back out on the road because that's what I said, but we are at a location very familiar to FTR owners, the gas station. We're here today to talk about two flaws with this motorcycle that I think really hold it back from excelling. Now, I didn't mention these two things in my favorite and least favorite part because they are very specific, and I needed to show them to you in person. Now, first things first, let me turn the gauges on here so you can see what I'm looking at. Now, when all of this is said and done, the fuel light is going to come on right there, and it's going to say low once it loads the gauge. Now, what do you think low means? You know, when does your gas light come on? So yeah, right there, it says low, and it flashed 33. That's because the bike is not running. What do you wager that low bar is? If you're on a normal motorcycle, you might be like, well, that probably means I've got 3/4 of a gallon left. Maybe I can get 30 or 40 miles, right? On this motorcycle, when the light comes on, you have 12 miles to get yourself to a gas station. I'm not joking. You have 12 miles. If you don't, you're going to be on the side of the road. So you might consider carrying a fuel bottle on your FTR. Now, I'm going to fill this motorcycle up so that I can actually continue going places. Okay, now you might be like, okay, so the gas light comes on when you only have a few miles left, but you're going to get plenty of range out of the tank, right? I mean, how much gas can you fit in here? Well, running this thing down to sailboat fuel, you're going to realize that this thing really doesn't take that much gas to fill up. It's got a ridiculously small tank, and what I assume is an oversized fuel pump, because they claim like 3.6, 3.7 gallons, something like that. And I have never managed to squeeze more than like 2.5 gallons in here. We're actually, oh, don't tell me, we're already full. Yep, 2.1 gallons. And I'm pretty sure I poured a little bit out the bottom because, yep, 2.2 gallons. And she is full up. So, yeah, that's not great. Especially on a motorcycle where you're literally running it at wide open throttle like 90% of the time. 2.2 gallons is not getting you very far. Now let's see here. Let's see if I didn't accidentally fill it up all the way. Well, our gas light has gone away. Alright, so I probably could have squeezed another half gallon in there, maybe. So, I didn't quite get it all the way. Let's claim it's a 2.7 gallon gas tank. In reality, that is abysmal. My SMCR carries more gas than this does, and it's a supermoto. So that's a problem for this motorcycle, especially, like, look, so it said like 100 and something, and now we're already down to 77 miles of range. This bike, it really does not have legs for all-day ride. You're gonna be the guy in the group ride who keeps pointing to his gas tank and holding everybody up. So if you're the kind of person who's like, yeah, I want to take big long day rides, I want to go out and have a lot of fun with my buddies, this bike is probably not the right answer, because again, you're going to be the person holding everybody up at the group ride. I'm getting around all this BS here because these people can't pull out into traffic. Okay. See there, was that so flippin' hard? Oh hey, we got an extra mile out of the tank. That's cool. Now another reason why the range on this is so abysmal is because you literally just want to ride it like this all the time. This motorcycle is at its happiest when you are revving the pants off of it. It is such a little screamer of a motorcycle, which is so antithetical to the big cruiser V-twin that they have in here, which is pretty cool. I really like that. It has this, you know, muscle car quality to it. And I mean that in more ways than one. So, if you know muscle cars and, you know, all the Mustang memes out there, you probably are getting an idea of where I'm going with this. But this motorcycle doesn't really handle all that well. It looks great, and it handles fine. Do not get me wrong. This motorcycle will go through corners more aggressively than you probably can. However, it is easy to find the limit of what these tires can handle on this bike. It's a little infuriating sometimes to just be going through a corner like this, you know, and you're getting a little bit into it, and then you rev the throttle and you feel the rear tires start skidding out from underneath you. And you're like, well, I wasn't pushing that hard. And chances are you weren't. This motorcycle just gives up really quickly. And that's down to the tires, which are an aesthetic choice on this motorcycle. And they did solve this problem for 2021. So if you want to get yourself a motorcycle that handles really well but still maintains this styling, you need to get yourself the FTR with the 17s. You don't need to get the carbon, the full Zoot one. I believe the base model S now comes in at $15,000, which is what this cost with 17s, which is pretty good, you know. I think that's a little bit much than I would pay for this motorcycle, but it's not unreasonable, I wouldn't say. I think you're getting a very good motorcycle for your money. Now you can see as we start getting into some corners here that you can really, you know, you can get into it with this motorcycle if you want. It's actually really fun to whip this thing through some corners, especially if you ride it like a supermoto. If you get your weight up forward on the bike and you get your hands and elbows up in the air, it feels really aggressive, but it actually responds really well to being ridden like that, which is fun. That's the kind of riding style that I like. You do got to be a little bit careful because you can over apply the throttle, and then we get into that thing I mentioned earlier about the tires falling apart out from underneath you, which can be a little bit nerve-wracking. But this bike does have traction control and ABS and all that good stuff, so it will save you at least a little bit from itself, which provides me a good segue to send this back into the shop and talk a little bit about the technology on this motorcycle, because this was one of the first American motorcycles in the sport category with you know, touchscreen, TFT dash, and all that good stuff. So let's take a quick look at what this thing has in terms of tech.
Bringing the bike back into the shop again, I wanted to talk a little bit about the features on this motorcycle that you get for the price. I talked a little bit about it when I was talking about my favorite and least favorite things, that I don't think this motorcycle out of the gate commands the price tag that they're asking for. So let's take a look at some of the features that you get and maybe compare it to another motorcycle that you might be looking at in this price point. So we've got Brembo brakes up front, like I had mentioned, on braided steel lines with a Brembo master cylinder. This is a nice piece of kit on here, and it stops the motorcycle pretty darn well. We've also got a TFT dash, although it is a little bit funny the way that it works. It is touchscreen, but it takes a really long time for it to boot up, whereas other bikes, it just kind of turns on and runs. You do have different modes on here, and we're going to take a look at the clusters in just a second, showing you how it all works. You also have fully adjustable Sachs suspension on here, which is a pretty good piece of kit on this motorcycle. It makes it easier for it to tune into your weight, and honestly, on a motorcycle like this, it is worth adjusting the suspension because it is a bike with more sporting inclinations. I also like the fact that just generally the fit and finish on this bike is solid, but again, I'd expect that from any motorcycle over about 10,000 bucks. Now let's take a look at the dashboard and some of the controls on here so you get an idea of what it all looks like from the cockpit. Now I wanted to take you for a quick tour of the dashboard here real quick, and one thing you're going to notice is from key on to dashboard gauges showing up on screen, it takes kind of a long time. Just watch this. So we turn the key, and then you see the FTR logo, and it sits here for a while the rest of the system boots up. And then you're going to see some legal brief that says paying attention to the dashboard is going to kill you, and Indian doesn't care. Well, they do care. They want you to buy another bike. And then you see that loading gauges page there, which you always see if you clear the legal code, because you can't actually just be like, don't ask me again, like on your iPhone update. You actually have to see it every time you boot the bike up, which is really annoying. But once you're in and looking at the gauges, you actually have two modes that you can look at. You've got yourself the nice clean gauge, which is what I prefer. It gives you the tack, it's a weird bar tack, but it looks good. And then you've got this big round tack with your speed in the middle. You've got a compass on here. A lot of other little doodads like your gas range, which is handy because this bike has a ridiculously bad gas range. Now, if we go into the menu, you can pair up your phone, your music, and all that stuff. You can change the brightness automatically, which is nice, and swap between your riding modes. You can't actually do the riding mode situation with the cluster. We'll show you that in a second. But you can pan between track mode, on and off, and all that stuff. You can turn TC on and off. Also very handy. We were goofing around with that at the strip. And you can see some interesting stuff like your oil life. Apparently the oil is overdue on this motorcycle, which is odd. I'm not sure why it's overdue, but we're gonna get the oil changed on here and it'll be all good to go. Now, on the cluster here, we've got ourselves cruise control. Really nice to have. It's super easy to use on this. You just click it in, turns cruise on, down to set, and then you can change and cancel all that stuff. You can change and move your cluster around here to change between your dashboards. You can change your ride mode just here, super duper easy to do. And you've got your blinkers and stuff. It all feels really good on this motorcycle, but does it compare to other motorcycles in the segment that are a little bit cheaper? So now let's compare this to a motorcycle you might also be looking at if you're looking at something in this power and price range. I'm thinking something like the Street Triple RS, which you can get for a cool $12,850 compared to the S's $15,000. On that motorcycle, you get an up and down quick shifter, a lot of adjustability in your ride modes, and just general same fit and finish for a lot less money. It's hard to make the case for this motorcycle unless you're really a big fan of that American sound and having Indian on your gas tank. I really think that these guys need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what is making this motorcycle cost so much money and really bring it more in line with the average, middleweight sport bike. I think it'll really help this bike sell more because people are interested in this motorcycle. Now let's get this bike back out on the road for the last time and start wrapping things up.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. time to start wrapping up my thoughts on this motorcycle, and I think at this point my thoughts should be pretty obvious on this motorcycle. I've done a lot of videos on it. I've taken it to a lot of different places. Drag strip was a ton of fun on this thing, and I even managed to rip a carbon on the drag strip, and that was also a lot of fun. Now, you may have heard me say that this motorcycle is dirt stupid, and I still think it is, so why don't we get down on its level for a minute? I'm thinking getting down on this bike's level, the best name for it is Furious George, the Street Mutilator. Furious George, it's got what squids crave. I mean, this motorcycle is just a ton of fun, guys. Every time I get on this bike, I have a really good time. And I think Indian nailed it with this bike. I really do. Yeah, it's not great at turning around a corner, but as long as you don't take it to a racetrack, you're going to be totally fine having a good time with this motorcycle on the street. It's really easy to get along with. It's super duper comfortable. The power and torque are great for a street machine. And honestly, this is one that I'm going to have a really hard time parting with once it's time to, you know, give it to its winner. I think that this bike is a really good choice for somebody who is a commuter on their bike and somebody who wants to just go and have a good time on the street on the weekend, but maybe not a long time. Because remember, this bike does not have great range. I guarantee you, before I finish the day up with this motorcycle, I am going to need to fill it up before I put it back in the shop. It's also not the smoothest ride in the world. It's possible that it's down to the tune that's on this bike, but this thing, it's a little bit jerky from time to time. It doesn't do neutral throttle all that well. But again, you're not supposed to be neutral throttle on this machine. You're literally just meant to, let's see here if we can get it in its element, which is not this corner right here, but it's the straight coming out of it. Come on, come on, let's have it, and go. I mean, this FTR is just a barrel of laughs, man. I have a really good time playing around with this bike, and it fits me great. It really does just suit the kind of riding that I like to do, at least when I'm on the street. I would never take this thing off-road, which ostensibly it's meant to go off-road, right? I mean, that's why it's got these goofy flat track tires. But taking a bike with this much torque off-road seems like a recipe for disaster, I'm not gonna lie. Now, are there any things on this bike that I would change? Honestly, no, not really. I think that at the way it's currently set up with the fully adjustable suspension and the switch clusters being the way they are, yeah, the dashboard's not the greatest, but it tells me everything I need to know on the bike, which that's all a dashboard needs to do. And it's got 2 different modes, which who doesn't love that? Go back. Go back. Thank you. This thing really is just about going out and having a good old larf for a few minutes on your motorcycle. That's really all it's about. And I mean, that's all I want out of a bike. Yeah, you can do, you know, some cruising on it if you want, but I don't want, baby. Yeah, you could really tear up a twisty road with it if you want, but I don't want. It's fun to just go at your own pace on this bike, chill, and then when you hit a straight, go wide open throttle and bury it all the way to the red line. This bike revs out so well and so linearly all the way to the fuel cut that, I mean, it's like rewarding to rev it out that far. I mean, this bike puts a smile on my face every time I get on the throttle, man. If that doesn't tell you enough about this motorcycle, then I don't know what else to say, man. I really, really enjoy this bike. I think Indian, they didn't quite knock the leather off the ball with this one, but they certainly got it out over the wall. They hit a home run here, and if you don't love the knobby tires and for some reason you gotta be a street Rossi, get yourself the one with the 17s and then you're all good. Now, it is a living width, and that means that I need to come up with a completely arbitrary number for this motorcycle as a rating, because we always have to rate a motorcycle, and everybody's looking for that little number, that verification that they're about to or did in fact make the right choice. Now, as for a number on this motorcycle, I am going to give it 12 completely roasted rear tires out of, let's give it 15. It's got some flaws. It's not a perfect motorcycle, but you know what? I'm willing to look past all the flaws and just have a really good time. And it's been a minute since I've been on a motorcycle that is as dumb as this is. It's not as up itself. It knows exactly what it's here to do, and it just executes on everything it wants to do. So, with all of that being said, I'm gonna wrap this video up. I'm gonna continue to rev the balls off of this motorcycle until we have to turn the keys over to the winner. Speaking of winning this motorcycle, if you would like to win it, click the links in the description down below. Get yourself signed up to win. You've got yourself YammieNoob.co, the old-fashioned way, or you can get, you know, some parts and all that good stuff for this FTR. Then, you know, hopefully it'll show up to your door. Click that link down below. Go to shop.YammieNoob.co. Get yourself all sorts of good stuff for your motorcycle, including the tail bag that I have sitting on here that is currently holding a camera. I'm not sure if I can turn around so y'all can see it here. Yep, that's down there. Yeah, get yourself all the good gear you need for your bike and get entered to win one at the same time. I will catch you guys in the next one. See you later.
Now, partner, I gotta tell you, it's real good seeing you here at the end of this here Yammie Noob video. It's me, Cowboy Yam, aka Yosemite Yam, back at it once again. And you click this video right over here. Do me a little solid, okay? You made it to the end of the video. Do me a little favor here. Click this video. Keep watching yourself some of this incredible Yammie Noob content. It's pretty good.